Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Review of Raw. I'm John Pollock along with Wai Ting.
Yeah.
Sporting the red and the blue.
Today. I'm conflicted.
Wow. Well,
I don't know.
That's a great word to describe this edition of Raw. I'm conflicted about this edition of Raw. We have lots to discuss because we had a number of things promoted ahead of time. Not only was Daniel Bryan going to be appearing, but for a full week, we got to anticipate what did they have in store for us regarding Puff Daddy being on this show. What gigantic idea would they have for Puff Daddy and his involvement on Raw? Guy who has performed at WrestleMania.
Yes.
Huge. So many ideas.
Yep,
we will get into them. I don't know. We might need to do 2 shows today just to cover it all. But the show began with Enzo and Cass coming out, and they started off by talking about Enzo and his flirtation with Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Which I detected a lot of sarcasm here from Big Cass. I think they were as conflicted as you and I were last week about this segment.
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of people weigh in on whether or not they were actually flirting, and I suppose
That was clearly the subject of their promo here. Were they or weren't they?
Were they or weren't they? I mean, what I gather was the way they tried to portray it here was that Enzo was trying to flirt. Sasha was kind of, reciprocating.
Wait a minute. That's not what you said last week.
Well,
you nearly punched me.
To me, they were actually flirting. But the way they were framing it here was that Sasha was kind of blowing them off.
Well, they discussed this. And Enzo said that there is no question that she was loving it and that he was smitten with Sasha last week. He says that their chemistry in the ring was on fire, and he was like Mike Trout of the Anaheim Angels until John Bon Jericho interrupted him last week and robbed him of a home run. And the only code that Jericho broke was the man code. He then said something about a baby burp, which is where you vomit a little inside.
Yeah, Enzo can get away with these kind of little, little remarks that kind of like mean nothing. But
he is pushing the limits, though, of that.
He makes them sound cool.
Well, he calls themselves the Anaheim Angels and states that Jericho's on the highway to hell, and then throws in a Guns N' Roses reference. Puts a lot of work into these every week. Lots of references to get into. So Jericho comes out and says that those two are more irritating than Achy Breaky Heart and calls him Enzo annoying. Jericho's job is to be a 46-year-old man that is dealing with these punk kids. And I think he has tailored his promos to be out of touch, which is kind of what the Jericho character was when it returned earlier this year that we were discussing, how this guy's come back and he's just completely out of touch.
I mean, I didn't really get that sense. I just thought he was kind of being
I think he's playing like the old guy that's trying to verbally go with the hot young talker Enzo.
He really doesn't seem old to me, though. He hasn't seemed
Achy Breaky Heart, that's a pretty dated reference to be throwing out.
He doesn't come across like Bob Backlund. In fact, like he comes across like a contemporary to Kevin Owens.
Okay, well, Bob Backlund is an extreme example of a...
I'm just saying it's not
a personality.
I don't know. I don't really get that sense of the character.
He says that Enzo makes a mess with his mouth, and then his maid, Cass, has to clean it all up, and says that now he has someone watching his back and brings out Kevin Owens. And they get into the ring, and Jericho says how he spoke to Jim and Marvin Luther for advice. And now him and Owens are close Canadian brothers, and that no matter what, Kevin Owens has his back. So then Cass and Enzo made these Bert and Ernie jokes about Jericho and Owens when they stated that they're going to scratch each other's back and said, are you guys going to scrub your backs in the same bathtub?
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're, a little past kind of the easy gay jokes. You know what I mean? Especially for baby faces. I didn't really need that on this show.
Yeah, this was like a very awkward tone that I think most people reacted like that was a homophobic reference here to the heels. Owen says that he liked Cass before, but they both had a waste of space in the form of a best friend holding them back. But unlike him, Cass didn't get rid of the dead weight in Enzo, referencing Sami Zayn, says he will hurt Cass. Jericho warns Enzo he is going to get it, and Enzo says he will shove it down his throat. And this turned into a singles match with Chris Jericho and Enzo. They didn't go 20 minutes, but they went about 15 here. And then we got a match tacked on at the end.
I enjoyed the interaction between these four. I enjoyed it last week. At times last week, in hindsight, felt a little bit awkward. I didn't really get that sense this week. But I think, all four are great in their roles. I think Enzo, Jericho, and Owens are all just fantastic talkers. And Cass plays the muscle well. So I don't mind these guys starting off Raw each week.
Of all four of them, to be honest, I found Owens to be the odd fit here. He just seemed to be like he's been thrown into this program, and I think him and Jericho have a great chemistry together. But in this particular segment, Owens almost felt like a spectator here.
Right, okay, because the other two kind of did most of the talking.
I just didn't feel he was much of a standout here, and typically, as a talker, Owens is.
He stood out to me in that he was the one who kind of made everything serious. You had kind of Jericho and Enzo playing more of the comedic tone, but Owens was the one who kind of made the call the what's his name, Enzo, dead weight in the same way Sami Zayn was his dead weight, and I thought he got really mean and personal.
So the match was Chris Jericho against Enzo. At the beginning of this match, facing the hard camera, some dude had a sign that read Ray and had his phone number listed in big block letters.
Like R-E-Y?
R-A-Y.
Oh, okay.
And the guy's phone number. And
did you call it?
I actually was considering texting it to see who this guy was, just for a fun story.
Probably really busy.
Well, it immediately got confiscated as I saw the sign. There was a security guy there to take the sign away. Ray, I'm sure, got some calls.
If you really want to ruin somebody's night, just put their name up and their phone number up on a sign on Raw in the crowd, and I'm sure you'll...
That's what Al Snow once did. He put Val Venus' cell phone number in it was when I think it was his... either head or his other Pierre was kidnapped, and he put a missing person sign and for any information to call this number, and it was Val Venus' cell phone number really that he put on Raw. Jericho landed a drop kick as Enzo comes off the ropes. Enzo skinned the cat, and Jericho threw him over. Then there was a back body drop that sent Jericho to the floor. They went through a commercial break, catches Enzo, and Jericho applies the walls of Jericho. Enzo gets to the rope. Then Owens grabs the leg of Enzo from the floor. He turns around, gets hit with the code breaker. Big Cass just runs in and hits Jericho with a big boot for the disqualification. So Jericho wins by DQ, and Owens and Jericho celebrate this win. And this is where Owens stood out for me, where he was great here.
To me, this was the match. I mean,
the singles match was not much.
Yeah, Enzo, Jericho wasn't that much, but it was the walk up the ramp with Jericho and Owens that I really wanted to see the most.
Yes. Cass makes a challenge for a tag match in their backyard in Brooklyn for SummerSlam, and they accept, and Owens is just yelling, "We're doing fine. We are winners," and just over and over. This was where Owens shined.
Cass and Enzo do their soft line, and then Owens, he doesn't even have a mic. He's just shouting all this out to the camera. He says, "That's not how you spell the word. It's S-O-F-T."
That's awesome. Now it's your chance to be heard on Review a Raw. Each and every week, we're going to be giving away a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. All you have to do is cut a promo in 30 seconds or less and submit a video link at Law Radio using the hashtag PWTeesPromo, and we will be announcing winning entries each week on Review a Raw. Here is this week's winner.
Amigos, it is I, your pal, El Dronco Loco, and I'm here to tell you that everything you've heard on the internet is a lie. You see green beans, they are no delicacy. No, cabrón. Green beans, they are disgusting. Oaxaca. You know, they're mushy, they're nasty, they're gross, they're not magical. You can't plant them, they don't grow. No golden egg. Oh no, cabrones, you want something magically delicious? Eat a taco, eat a torta, eat a burrito. But stay away from the green beans, cabron. Green beans are no delicacy.
They announced that tonight we will have a segment with Rusev and Lana celebrating their marriage. Mick Foley is on the phone with Stephanie and states he's invited Daniel Bryan to Raw tonight to address the Brock Lesnar issue from last week. And Stephanie is asking about the tablet as he's holding a notepad in his hands. And then Sasha Banks walks in, and that was realistically the only reference to Stephanie on the whole show because she was absent throughout tonight. Banks suggests to Mick Foley that she wants to have a handicap match at SummerSlam against Charlotte and Dana Brooke because she knows Dana's going to get involved anyway. Foley then states, well, why not we have a singles match with you and Dana tonight? And if you win, Dana is banned from ringside. And if you lose, then it will be a handicap match, which is what Sasha requested to begin with. Why Foley just couldn't ban her from the beginning? This just seemed like a very contrived way to get to a match.
Sasha requested the handicap match?
Sasha came in and asked for a handicap match, which I don't know. They did explain later it would still be a title match, even if it was a handicap match, but my brain was hurting too much.
Yeah.
We were going to get a singles match with Sasha and Dana, and Sasha was going to beat her pretty quick. That's what this was going to lead to.
Yeah. So why would Sasha want the handicap match?
Well, her thinking was Dana's going to get involved anyway, so why don't we just make her part of the match?
Okay. I mean, if she really wanted, she could have lost intentionally to Dana and to get that opportunity.
Well, now she's banned from ringside, which as the general manager of Raw, wouldn't you want a clean match anyway?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you ban her just to begin with?
I don't know, man. It was an excuse to do Sasha versus Dana, and they had to come up with this really weird excuse.
Well, later in that match, it would be a slap in the face to the entire audience. There was a trailer for the Ben-Hur movie mixed with WWE footage and a Gorilla Monsoon clip in here over the Coliseum audience. This was quite the ad for Ben-Hur using the WWE library.
I thought we were gonna get WrestleMania 9.
Oh yeah, the toga party. Mm-hmm. Braun Strowman came out first, and then we go backstage. Byron was with Jorel Nelson, who was too nervous to give an answer as to why he took this match. And then Jorel Nelson got generic music. He got an entrance, got a graphic.
Yeah, they had the jobbers come out second, and they had their names keyed. It was, I kind of liked it more when they were a bit more understated and subtle, when they were actually being interviewed during Braun Strowman's entrance. But I think it makes for a fun moment to actually see them come out.
Nelson tries to leave the ring as soon as the bell rings, and he is knocked off the apron and then sent back into the ring. There was a lariat to Nelson, knocking him inside out, and then the reverse chokeslam in 49 seconds. This was a distant third to me of the Braun Strowman victims, not one that really stood out.
Yeah, I think part of what made the other two, obviously a bit more special was because they seemed a lot more genuine and
well, the bar was set so high that no one's ever going to eclipse it.
This one to me kind of felt like they were forcing it a little. Like they kind of figured, oh, people really like these jobbers, so let's feature these jobbers. But then when you're featuring the jobbers, it's like taking an inside joke and making it, like the focal part of your set.
I kind of want to see next Monday James Ellsworth training, and it leads to him challenging Braun at SummerSlam on the kickoff show for a rematch. And he gets in like a drop kick and then gets killed again. I think we can get more out of James Ellsworth. I think that's where this should go. Then we got the big segment of the night. Mick Foley, now with a tablet, backstage, and in walks Sean Puff Daddy Combs, which the audience booed as he walked in here. They could easily tell the future of what was in store. And then Puff Daddy, as transparent as a glass window with why he was here, immediately plugs his Bad Boys show coming up August 25th in Columbus, Ohio. It's going to feature Mace, Lil' Kim, The Locks, 112, French Montana, and to Mick Foley's chagrin, Faith Evans will be there too.
Mick wanted Faith there.
Yes, he was asking about Faith. And then Puff Daddy gave him and the Foley family front row tickets.
Wow.
So if any of our listeners are in Columbus, Ohio, and can check if these tickets are used by the Foley family, do let us know.
I guess it makes sense to do this with an Attitude Era guy because, that was when, they were big.
Sure, yeah, I guess so.
1998.
Yes. And then Xavier Woods and Kofi walked in. They give Puff Daddy some bootios, and then on top of this, Puff Daddy is the what is the title here? The executive soundtrack producer for WWE 2K17.
Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a title. Where he then talks about this awesome list of groups they have doing music for the game. Black Sabbath, the guy that I know Puff Daddy listens to every day, Travis Barker, and of course, the man he's pushing, French Montana. Let's not forget French Montana, he says, before then saying, how's Ease nuts?
How's Ease nuts?
And
then he got censored. Somebody got censored.
Foley got censored, where I don't know what he said, because he got in a line calling the groups fresh, and then something else was censored.
And then Foley said, I'm pretty sure you can't say that to Puff Daddy. So I feel like Puff Daddy had said something.
See, I rewound this, and it looked like they censored Foley when he said something. So I don't know what happened
I don't
here.
know.
I don't care that much either. And then Xavier and Kofi called the club the Vanilla Ice of the WWE, and this ended with the fresh comment by Foley. And that was our contribution of Puff Daddy. I'm not complaining, but...
Why else would he do this, man?
Yeah, that was it.
Now at least we all know that about the Bad Boy 20th anniversary reunion, and we know all the bands that are going to be on WWE 2K17.
Yeah,
Great,
wonderful. Coming up this Sunday night on The Law, it's myself and Dan the Mouth Lavransky for 2 full hours, and we are going to be dedicating the majority of the show to running through the finals of the G1 Climax, taking your phone calls, and we'll chat with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's The Law, live audio wrestling on TSN Radio, 11 Eastern, Sunday night. We also have a SummerSlam theme from Flo Rida. Who else? Who's With Me is the song, which
Man,
doesn't feature a question mark.
He must have had like 5 songs or like featured.
Oh, he's the guy they go to. They love Flo Rida.
Kevin Dunn's first choice
Yep.
on the playlist.
Not my choice was this rematch between Titus O'Neil and Darren Young with Bob Backlund in the corner. This was playing off of last week's match. Young slapped Titus. Then Young came off the ropes and awkwardly went into this knee of Titus O'Neil. It looked very strange. Young then got run into the apron on the floor. Titus is mocking Backlund. Young gets caught coming off the turnbuckle. Then he hops off the shoulders, avoiding a power slam, and rolls up Titus. This time, it's Darren that grabs the trunks and wins the match in 1:57. And Bob Backlund, who last week scolded Titus O'Neil for cheating, now is celebrating Darren's big victory. For a tag team, these two have no chemistry.
Man, like you compare the match that these two had last week, or even this week, to a match between 2 former tag team partners, and then you compare it to the match Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had on the CWC.
Wait, no one is comparing those.
There is like
Nobody is
it's impossible.
debating.
But I'm saying when you have the built-in storyline of 2 tag team partners facing each other, you have the potential to have the great match that those two had on the CWC. Yet we saw that throwaway match last week only to build up to this match, which was just as much of a throwaway. I mean, I feel like these two are just... It's impossible for me to figure out who's babyface or heel. I'm not even...
They switched this week. Last week it was Titus. This week it was Darren.
They tried to tell some weird story last week about how Titus was kind of showing them tough love. And this week... I still don't know. Maybe, like, to them, maybe they're just, like, doing away with the whole good guy, bad guy thing. But that's why nobody's reacting to these matches. Nobody cares.
Seth Rollins came out, and he called Finn Balor the Jared Leto to his Heath Ledger, a second-rate version of himself. And then he broke some news that Finn Balor is not his real name. Finn means famous warrior, and Balor means demon king. I almost thought he said Demon King.
Yeah, me too.
I think everyone thought that.
I didn't know there was an Irish word for...
And he laughs about this name. He said, that would be like me calling myself Rambo Apocalypse.
Maybe that's what Seth Rollins means.
That might have been his FCW name if they didn't come up with Rollins.
Oh, wow.
He calls Balor disrespectful and that this is his show. And much like last week where he starts off on the comedy and I'm not really digging it, Then it builds into a more serious promo, and that's what this was. He is furious over the comment that the title was handed to him. He says he overcame a career-threatening injury and that in 200 years, people will be sitting around the fireplace telling their kids stories about how Rollins slayed a beast, crushed the face that runs the place, conquered the Roman Empire, which was the only one that got cheers, and will add to his legend at SummerSlam. So this rounded itself out by the end of things, but I was not liking the comedy bits at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Seth Rollins is a very capable promo we've seen, but I think now that he's put into the top heel role on the show, I have higher expectations of him, and I didn't think the promo necessarily blew me away, nor did it make me feel any type of emotion. I feel like we got more of the whiny Seth Rollins here, which I think is, fine for like a mid-carder, but I think as a top heel, he needs to be taken more seriously, and I think you do that by, maturing the character a little and having him speak with a bit more menace and more control.
And it will say the same thing later with Roman Reigns, I feel. With him, with Reigns, with Dean Ambrose. How crazy is it that when they did the comedy, they struggle with, and typically it's the serious promo that connects more with people. They plugged the Scooby-Doo DVD that they've got coming out on Tuesday, and then we got a rematch between Sheamus and Cesaro. Now, last week, they had a match where Cesaro got a title match by winning. So I don't know why we were having this rematch this week, but we were.
Wait, what title match did he get?
Last week, they stated that the winner of that match would get a future title opportunity,
You're right.
and that is what led to the match we got later tonight.
Gotcha, okay.
But we first had to have a rematch between these two. Yes. So Cesaro clotheslines him to the floor, nails him with this great-looking suicide dive. Then back into the ring, there was a deadlift into a vertical suplex. Cesaro used a high cross after striking Sheamus from outside of the apron. Cole says that this is as hard-hitting as a Anaheim Ducks game at the Honda Center, which Corey Graves says, well, that's why Byron Saxton was searching for Gordon Bombay all day in the arena. For you mighty Ducks fans. Yes. The neutralizer is stopped by Cesaro. Then Cesaro ducks a brogue kick into a roll-up for a 2 count. Sheamus then hit the white noise for a 2 count. And right at the end, the referee avoids an Irish whip in the corner, then nearly gets hit a second time, this one with Cesaro running into the corner. And while the referee is in the middle of all this, Sheamus suckers him with his forearm, and he has the pinfall, but the referee is distracted because he was hurt in the middle of this. And then it's Sheamus going to check on the referee as Cesaro goes for an O'Connor roll and gets the pinfall, beats him for the second straight week.
Yeah, I feel like a program with Cesaro, for Sheamus and Cesaro doesn't necessarily do much for either of them, no matter the outcome.
This is like Darren Young and Titus. We're just going to face off each week.
Yeah, but, I will say I really do like the chemistry these two have together in ring. I think Cesaro brings out the best in Sheamus, and, they're both similar in size, and they both have a very aggressive and powerful style. So I do like these matches, but depending on if we're talking about, how much Cesaro gains out of this feud, I don't think he gains that much by beating Sheamus or vice versa.
Well, in the case of Darren Young and Titus, I think we all expect more matches from them, and I think with Sheamus and Cesaro, the same. Oh, yeah. And, I mean, part of the reason of this brand split was the hope of not having to redo all of these matches, but you also have smaller rosters, and for some of these feuds, you don't have the ability to space them out, and it's by SummerSlam time, if those are kickoff matches, wherever they fall under, we're talking the third or fourth match of the month between these guys. Mm-hmm. So I think you lose something there.
I just feel like everybody, like the point of this brand split is to kind of give everybody a bit of a fresh coat of paint. And certainly somebody like Cesaro doesn't feel like he's had that.
Well, their gimmicks are that they don't want to be on Raw. That's what we know about them so far post-draft.
Or they're struggling to maintain a spot on Raw.
Catch all of our podcasts daily up at FightNetwork.com. You can also subscribe to Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes and listen through the free Stitcher app. They showed highlights of Brock appearing on SmackDown. And then we got a video that they had been promoting throughout the show. This was taped last week. called 15 Years in the Making, Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. And it goes back, they showed highlights of their time in OVW together, which Orton explained. He met Lesnar right after he had won the 2000 NCAA Division I title. We got a voiceover of Jim Cornette on Raw in 2016. Both were called up to the main roster in 2002. And Orton says that Brock left the WWE in 2004 because he didn't like people. And that pissed Orton off because he hates people just as much as anyone else, especially at that time period. But says that it showed that Lesnar wasn't the guy he thought he was. And then we cut to Lesnar, who says, I have no relationship with Randy Orton. It's irrelevance, he says. He says his accomplishments far exceed Randy Orton. He says, I am a mega superstar and Orton is a star. He's in another universe. Randy Orton is just another guy, just like all the other guys in the locker room. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any wrestlers tweeted Brock Lesnar and were upset with this heel line. Heyman was also there for this sit-down with Brock Lesnar, and Heyman said that Randy Orton is the best surfer on the beach.
Great.
Like, go on. And he said that Orton rides the waves, but he is no match for the shark, Brock Lesnar. And then Brock Lesnar says that I've been doing this since I was 5. I'm like a robot. I train, I eat, and I out my opponents. And Orton says he's going to kill the legend of Brock Lesnar. This was fantastic, and Brock Lesnar cut a better promo for SummerSlam than he did for UFC 200.
Brock is great in these sit-down interviews. He's great when he's answering questions, when he's reacting to something. I don't think he's as good when he's out there being forced to just talk unprovoked, like cutting.
He typically just stands there for the live
and there's a reason,
segments.
There's a reason for that because you have Paul Heyman who's great at doing that aspect of it. But in these pre-taped sit-down interviews, I think they've really figured out how to get the most out of Brock's speaking roles, and that's through sound bites like this. I thought this was a good, simple, effective video that carried the feud along without having Lesnar appear. So, what I do kind of enjoy about Brock's run so far is that we'll get these video packages, each time he has a big feud because he's not going to appear every single week. And I think the feuds have been typically better as a result of it because I think a little video recap like this does great.
Yeah, they didn't do this for the Dean Ambrose program. That one we got the Red Wagon angle to set up that match.
I blocked that out.
Yeah, that program wasn't worthy of a Brock sit-down. This was great. I thought this was really good, and Brock Lesnar was just awesome here. Yeah. I thought this was really effective. Way better than the SmackDown run-in last week, which I think was largely too much last week. You had that great angle on Monday, and to me, Tuesday felt like a copycat and a less effective one.
It gave them footage to use in this, though.
So they plug Lesnar, who will be on Raw next week in Corpus Christi for the final Raw before SummerSlam. The Dudleys come out. This might be the first time we've seen them since the draft on Raw. And Michael Cole explains there was a backstage altercation on the pre-show with the Dudleys and Neville, and they told Neville to go find a partner. And boy, did he. In the form of Sin Cara, who was out all in black. I thought for sure this guy was turning on Neville. Black mask, black trunks.
I think he's been wearing black.
I can't honestly tell you. But nonetheless, the Dudleys beat on Sin Cara forever. And they knocked Neville off the apron, and then Sin Cara hit a somersault dive to Bubba on the floor. And then, in the most ridiculous thing of the night, Sin Cara runs across the ring. He leaps through the ropes like Alberto Del Rio will do when he's like knocked to the floor. But there was no one sending Sin Cara to the floor. He just ran through the ropes to the floor. The Dudleys are just standing there at what is going on. He waves his fingers at the Dudleys, gets up onto the apron, and looks at them. And then Bubba just knocks him back down, and Corey Graves goes, well, that sure didn't work out for him. I didn't know what this was.
I'm not sure either. I maybe he was just like...
Maybe he thought someone was supposed to be there or catch him with something. I don't know what happened.
I think he was trying to avoid Devon somehow. It looked awkward, yeah.
This was weird.
Yeah.
Byron then brings up the Dudleys being split in the 2002 draft, and Corey Graves doesn't understand why we are talking about things from 14 years ago. which was hilarious considering we just finished a 15 years in the making video package.
And also a Puff Daddy plug.
So anyway, it ends with a Neville getting the tag and firing up on Devon. There was a twisting dive to the floor onto Bubba, then a springboard drop kick to Devon in the Red Arrow, and a win in 5:19. They were putting over Neville and Sin Cara as this great team. I hope this is not the fate of Neville.
Oh, me neither. I mean, geez. For somebody like Neville, I feel like the Cruiserweight division can't arrive quick enough because I think he's just floundering right now on his own. I would actually love to see him paired with somebody like a Cesaro, who is also kind of floundering with doing nothing. And I much prefer a team of Neville as sort of the small, quick guy with the larger dude, which I think, as we see with Enzo and Cass, kind of helps both men in that spot. The Dudleys, I don't know if you noticed here, John, at the end, because they kind of had some miscommunication to lead to the finish, you had Bubba give a slight look of disdain to Devon.
Yeah, we had the one spot where Devon accidentally knocked Bubba, and then the announcers during the replay brought up the fact a rare miscommunication between the Dudleys. So they were hinting there that, here's a team that never has problems, and here they screwed up on their own here.
Could it be? Could it be finally a Bubba Ray heel run?
Boy, we could only hope. You can check out The Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more. Daniel Bryan is shown arriving in the back, and the ring is then decorated for the celebration of love. As Rusev comes out, followed by Lana in her wedding dress, and we have a wedding-themed Titantron with champagne popping. We have wedding rings together. Lana says that Rusev gave everything that she has ever wanted to her, and none of these fans were invited to their wedding, and Rusev just screams to respect my wife. Lana says they are going to reenact and recreate their special day, and then Lana kisses his bicep. They showed a montage of wedding photos, and then there were these loud, boring chants.
Wedding slideshows are always the biggest heat generators. Like in real life, they are too.
Rusev, I cannot tell you how great he was here.
Yeah.
I loved Rusev during this segment. They're chanting boring, and Rusev says, I know, you want more and more. We don't have any more. And Lana says that Rusev is the greatest man of all time, that he got a beach for their wedding, a custom-made dress from Russia, and then Rusev takes the mic. Custom-made dress? Look at those cakes! Each one of those cakes costs more than you make in a month. They wrote their own wedding vows, and they demand that the people take photos, and then he calls all the American pigs jealous when Roman Reigns comes out to a mixed reaction. He says that Rusev needs a best man, and he wants to give a toast. And the crowd boos, and Rusev doesn't want his stupid toast. So instead, Roman challenges him for the U.S. title at SummerSlam, and Rusev immediately says no. So Reigns then starts pouring champagne and begins to drink it, and makes a toast to the Bulgarian Sasquatch and the mail-order bride. Reigns says he's disappointed, which made two of us, and was expecting more out here, just like Lana expected more on their wedding night. Because Rusev has a small dick. And Reigns knocks Rusev into Lana, and then she falls into the cake, and she freaks out, yelling that she hates Reigns, and Rusev throws cake at Roman as he leaves.
I hated this. I thought it was insufferable. And I understood why they would make it so bad. They wanted to make
it so horrible that Roman would save the day.
Yes.
And instead, I'm not saying that they were loving Rusev, but I think that they were not looking at Roman as the high point to turn this around.
I mean, I was cheering Roman when it came up because at least it signified to me that this was on its way to concluding. But Roman came out, and boy, we got the same suffer and succotash Roman Reigns here. I don't know who's writing for this guy, okay? Like, I know that suffer and succotash thing was like sort of like an inside joke that's kind of become, more of a joke on him. But like, I feel like this was Bulgarian Sasquatch. Like, I think this was written to
It
make
was
him look
everything.
cool.
It was like, here's my cool voice and my rock light mannerisms.
He's
it
terrible.
was just
He's terrible as a sly, witty, sarcastic comedian. It's not. It doesn't suit him at all. I thought they did so well last week with the whole Patriot thing. You know what I mean? And
they ditched that.
They completely dropped that this week, and I don't know why. I thought this was. It actually made me feel tortured watching this because I had to watch this for this review, and I couldn't change the channel, and I couldn't leave the room. Like I felt like I was. I felt like it was like a Clockwork Orange type of thing.
Rusev and Lana are furious backstage. Lana is all, the cake is all over her, and Mick Foley is there, and Rusev is complaining and wants Foley to do something about it. Foley says, well, technically, you knocked into Lana. And Rusev says, don't be smart with me. And Foley decides to do something about it, and he makes the U.S. title match for SummerSlam. And Lana, this cake, it was like a vanilla cake with like some red strawberry something in it. So it looked like she had
Icing.
Was it icing?
Yeah.
So it looked like she had just done this incredible blade job backstage if you were just tuning in here on this this white dress. Then the announcers congratulate the WWE Network for having over 6,000 hours of content, up from 1,500 when it launched, which I guess is something to congratulate yourself over. We've uploaded all this content in 2.5 years. Bravo, us. Like, this wasn't like our new subscriber number. We've hit this peak. We've uploaded all these hours of footage.
We've waited a lot of time to have this video file rendering.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think,
uploading.
yeah. So, anyway, way to go. 6,000 hours is up there. They haven't.
I mean, it's something worth promoting because of the value of the.
This was another push just to say what is up there. I mean, their entire library is something like 110,000 hours of content. So, I mean, when you throw that out,
110,000
hours. So when you say 6 is up there, I mean, well, bravo.
I mean, I
Get the rest of it up
I don't.
there.
I don't have time to watch all that.
Sasha Banks and Dana Brooke. What a match this was. It only went 241, but boy, was there some interesting stuff here. We got the running double knees by Sasha, and they explain that if it becomes a handicap match, Charlotte can still win the title. Figure that one out. Sasha then hits a clothesline Dana hits the clothesline to stop Sasha. Dana then attacks her with an elbow pad and then tosses it away. The referee takes the elbow pad and is distracted. So Sasha is laying on the bottom rope. And what Charlotte needs to do is to go slap Sasha, and Sasha's going to move out of the way so Charlotte will hit Dana. Well, before Charlotte wound up her arm, Sasha moved her head. So Charlotte committed to the slap and just nails Dana. This was so terrible.
Yeah.
Then Sasha hit the double knees off the turnbuckle and pinned her in 241. Thankfully, it was short, but this slap was terrible.
It's a far cry from what we saw 2 weeks ago. I mean, the match was not good.
And let it be said, this was not Dana's fault.
Yeah, Sasha had an off night, perhaps, and I wasn't a fan of the match. I wasn't really a fan of the lazy logic they used to explain why Sasha would want the handicap match.
They could have used a video package for this week.
They could have used
for the women's title match.
a limited
The
date.
biggest rematch in women's history. Done. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all we need to sell it as. For more of Wai Ting and myself, you can catch Review a SmackDown each and every Wednesday morning. Simply go to liveaudiowrestling.com or subscribe for free to Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes. Video feature on Nia Jax, a force that cannot be stopped. No Nia Jax squash tonight. And then we randomly saw Sean Waltman beat Scott Hall from 23 years ago to promote Ben-Hur. Then we got a video on Finn Balor, who is seated on this set with smoke and music. And he says that he knows the history of Seth Rollins, but does Seth know his history? And he's going to show him the Irish history of such heroes as Finn McCool, who stabbed his own face to save the city. And then the monsters, such as the Doulahan, the Banshee, and the worst monster of them all, Balor. When his evil eye opens, the world ends. And and Finn says that he can tap into the power of these creatures to become a myth, and that Rollins may have his demons, but he has never met the Demon King, and he will at SummerSlam. That might read a little goofy. I thought it was very good at establishing what this demon character is.
Yes.
And pretty much confirms that is what you're getting at SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's a great way to promote the fact that you'll see Balor in his demon outfit at SummerSlam. And also, you really couldn't have done this in a live setting. It needed to be a pre-tape. And
Yes.
I also think a pre-tape was a good way to let a guy like Finn do his thing without the pressure of live TV in the crowd, this early in his run. I thought they did a great job with it. It looked cool. It kind of touched on a sort of an out there mythology, but effectively. So, and it ended with the demon tease. So I think this was one of the bright parts of this show.
Answer this, likely or unlikely. By the end of the year, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are known as the Doulahan and the Banshee.
Probably unlikely.
Well, maybe they will be known as Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gallows, because that was our next segment in front of a green screen. This appeared to be. I don't think we actually went to a medical facility. As Gallows and Anderson discussed ring post-itis and replayed Big E's balls being run into the steel post. And they then bring up a mason jar with these white eggs that are to be
Pickled eggs.
To, I guess, resemble balls. They then said that they ran tests, and they were nuts, and makes you want to bawl your eyes out, and are going to collect another sample tonight from Kofi Kingston. So they are hunting for testicles.
I'm so sorry you just had to recap that, man.
This screamed Vince McMahon segment.
Yeah, I know. Like, you actually have a day job here, and that follow on the Fight Network following this show.
We're talking about Roman.
You're talking about that.
Rusev getting it up on his wedding night. We're talking about ring post-itis.
And then you have to talk about the athletic commission rule changes in the UFC.
Sean Wheelock on the MMA Report this week.
I'm sorry you have to.
I'll ask Sean Wheelock about the MMA Rules and Regulations Committee's thoughts on ring post-itis.
I feel bad for you to have to risk your credibility by talking about stupid, something like this, which is, I guess it's fine if you're Vince or like a really young child, you'd enjoy this, but boy, is this tough to watch as a 32-year-old.
We got to race through this. Luke Gallows killed Kofi Kingston, hit like a version of the F5 for the clean win. The most notable thing about this match was Michael Cole stating that the New Day has the longest WWE Tag Team title reign, and that Demolition at 478 days has the longest World Tag Team title run. So there you have it. Michael Cole clearly getting sick of comments from people online, I bet. They teased going after Kofi, but Xavier chased them off with a chair. Goldust was searching for R-Truth. He was in a Scooby-Doo van. They plugged the movie, and then they all went off to watch the movie. Mick Foley comes out for the final segment and says that the wedding was fresh. Zero reaction. He brought out Daniel Bryan. Foley compliments Bryan on running SmackDown and makes mention of Bryan and Mauro Ranallo doing a great job on the Cruiserweight Classic and making those matches even more special. And then Bryan compliments Foley, and Foley tells him to cut it out and mentions Bryan talking smack on Talking Smack last week, making fun of the Universal title. And they showed highlights of Talking Smack and Bryan making fun of it. And Foley says the Universal title is not a joke. The Raw fans deserve a world title. And then Rusev comes out saying Raw already has a champion, and it's him. And he will crush Bryan for the greatest GM in history, Mick Foley. And Bryan says he's just sucking up to get out of the Roman Reigns match. Cesaro comes out stating that he deserves a title opportunity after beating Sheamus. And Bryan notes that Cesaro is being underutilized on Raw. And the Raw fans in this building start chanting, yes, in agreement with the SmackDown GM. Foley then says that Reigns will get the title match at SummerSlam. Cesaro gets a title match tonight. And this ends the complete unnecessary use of Daniel Bryan on Monday night.
Why was he here?
I have no idea, other than to promote Daniel Bryan being here for the third hour. This was a total waste.
It was so strange. It felt like they were leading up to some type of angle, but then we had sort of this non sequitur of a U.S. title match and the overrun.
Like, you can make the excuse last week, you're building the main event of SummerSlam. Here's a reason we need to have Orton appear on Raw. And this, to me, this felt like 2002, where it was just, well, he's on.
Here's
For
a
what
name.
reason?
Yeah.
Just because. I did not like this at all. They plugged Lesnar for next week, and Seth Rollins will call out the Demon King, which I almost am positive will be answered by Kane. Rusev and Cesaro, U.S. title match. They went 9.5 minutes here. I don't know about you. This match kind of dragged for me. But Cole noted that this is going to mean big ratings for Raw.
I mean, you knew nothing was going to happen. They both had other programs leading into SummerSlam. The match was with Roman Reigns was already booked. So what? I didn't understand the positioning of this match here at all.
Rusev had the heat for a long while. Cesaro made a comeback. He did the Cesaro swing, sharpshooter, and then Sheamus showed up, and Cesaro shoves Rusev into Sheamus and the referee. He hits the neutralizer, but the referee is out. The same setup pretty much to the other Cesaro match tonight. And then he gets the referee, but this time Rusev kicks him. It kicks out of the neutralizer, and then Cesaro gets raked in the eyes, and Sheamus kicks him from the floor, and Rusev pins Cesaro at 9:36. Rusev is celebrating on the ramp, and Reigns runs down, spears him, and leaves to end the show.
I thought, just the segment itself was just rather sloppy. You know what I mean? The match was just whatever, but you had two guys working two separate storylines heading into this match. You don't build Cesaro's motivations for having this match at all, so none of it's believable, and I don't really care. It just felt really disjointed and lazy to me.
Well, it felt comforting to know this is the Raw I had missed. This is Raw coming back to earth.
Man, I was really looking forward to watching Raw this week because we had two very solid episodes, and I was so disappointed by this episode. I thought it sucked.
I really enjoyed that Orton Lesnar video package.
And the Finn Balor one, that was good
Yeah,
too.
the Finn one was good too. They had some good video
Beyond
packages,
that,
but there was some bad
on.
stuff on this Raw. So we are up against the clock, so that is going to wind it down. This will probably be a week where SmackDown is better, but we'll find out. We will not be so sure about that. You can tune in Wednesday to liveaudiowrestling.com, catch a review of SmackDown as Wai Ting and I will go through that. And we are here each and every Tuesday on Review of Raw. And make sure to get in your video promos using the hashtag PWT's promo, 30-second promo, upload it, and you could be the winner of a Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirt. Is that not right?
Yes, it is.
Maybe we'll make one saying, we survived 3 hours and 12 minutes of Raw. That's all for us. We'll speak with you on Wednesday.